We all know that Bitcoin is being used less and less as the decentralized payment network that it was originally created to be. Proponents of Bitcoin explain this away by saying that Bitcoin is now just a store of value and equate it to digital gold. But try explaining how money came into existence to a 4-year-old, and you'll soon get an inkling for why this makes no sense, because then you can't hide behind vague terms. Most people don't understand what store of value actually means. They think that they're storing some dollar amount or something, but you can't store price. This is broken thinking by a generation that have known nothing other than fiat currency. Warren Buffett got to the nub of the distinction when he said that price is what you pay, value is what you get. Price and value are completely different things. So I want you to stop using the phrase store of value, at least in your head. Every time you hear the phrase store of value, translate it into the more appropriate phrase store of utility. That's what the value in store of value is referring to. It's those functions that Bitcoin makes possible that people can't live without. Those unique attributes that guarantee public utilization. So if you ever hear anyone say, it's okay that Bitcoin isn't used as a medium of exchange anymore because nowadays it's used solely as a store of value, then I want you to translate that in your head to, it's okay that Bitcoin has no utility anymore because nowadays it's used solely as a store of utility. Yeah, let that cognitive dissonance wash over you for a moment. Let me make this crystal clear. Most of the useful functions once performed by Bitcoin are now better served by alternative solutions like Ethereum, Cardano, and Monero. Bitcoin can't be safely used as money long term unless it has real utility, and Bitcoin's utility has largely been supplanted by superior alternatives. To see why, let's do a "Is Bitcoin the best at this?" competition. 1. Does Bitcoin have the fastest settlement times? No, absolutely not. 2. Does Bitcoin have the lowest fees? No. 3. Is Bitcoin the most decentralized? Despite what you might think, no, but it's definitely competitive. 4. Does Bitcoin have the highest throughput and scalability? No, except via the Lightning Network, which comes at the cost of losing decentralization. 5. Does Bitcoin have the largest app ecosystem? No, it doesn't even have one. 6. Does Bitcoin have the best privacy? Absolutely not. Bitcoin has worse privacy than a bank account. 7. Is Bitcoin the most energy efficient? Hell no. Bitcoin is a steam engine. If it does get banned at this point, it would be for crimes against ecology. Okay, just joking. 8. Is Bitcoin the most robust and secure? Yes, probably. And that's it. That's all that stops Bitcoin from being technologically irrelevant at this point. Bitcoin is now a two-legged stool, and you don't want to be sitting on a two-legged stool. Particularly since plans to bring other networks up to par in this area are already well formed. Take for example the soon-to-be published Omega update for Cardano's proof-of-stake protocol, Ouroboros. It will give Cardano the same security and robustness benefits as Bitcoin, but on a network that's already superior in every other regard. So ask yourself, do you really want to have your ass parked on the Bitcoin stool while the last two legs are being sawn off? Despite all of that, I'm sure there will be some of you thinking, but Bitcoin doesn't need to have any utility. It's an established form of money now. It's here to stay. But that's just bamboozling yourself with words again. For starters, there's no historical precedent for any form of money that didn't have some well-defined utility for the users of that money. Let's look at some examples. Commodity money. Commodities are commodities precisely because they have utility. End of. Fiat currency. There are two types. Firstly, as a claim for a commodity held by a central bank, and secondly, and this usually comes later, as a claim on the goods and services sold by all businesses by being made legal tender and therefore by being backed and enforced by law. Both of these are just claims on commodities and services that, you guessed it, have utility. Bank bonds. These have been used as money at some points in the past. They're just claims on future cash flows, which are either commodities or claims on commodities. Either way, more utility. Shells. Someone tried to catch me out with that example, because shells are obviously worthless. But if you live in a society where the dowry to marry a woman has to be paid in shells, then they're a priceless commodity. Metro travel cards. I don't know whether these have been used as money, to be honest, but if they're the type that can be kept until you choose to stamp them, then there's no reason they couldn't be. And I provide this example because a metro travel network is not a commodity but a technology like Bitcoin, which is a decentralized payment network. It has utility to the extent people want to use it. I mean, suppose you stored your wealth in metro travel cards. Do you think people would still want them from you once low-cost teleportation had been invented? I mean, you can just picture it, can't you? The Metropolitan Travel Network balls, the public transport maxis, standing outside the now boarded up train stations, clutching desperately to their now worthless travel cards that no one wants to buy, and screaming, "But this is money!" Bitcoin isn't money. It's a technology that for a while was used as money, for example on the dark web, but then Monero replaced it because it's way better. If Bitcoin had a plan for how it was going to remain technologically relevant, then I wouldn't be such a Bitcoin bear. But since it doesn't, it seems inevitable to me that it's ultimately going to zero, the moment people conclude that it serves no useful function anymore. So what do you do if you want to invest in crypto, but want to avoid holding the bag when Bitcoin collapses? Buy coins associated with the platforms that are going to have the greatest impact in the world and who are creating the services that everyone in the future will depend on. In short, store utility, not quote unquote value.